politics is a lot of noise. You hear a lot of things. And I understand that people have things to do every single day of their life. They have to go to work. They have to take care of their children. They have errands to run. There's a lot of things that's going on in the world and they can't keep up with it. So when they get home, every once in a while they will pick up their phone, their laptop, and they will check and see what's the hot topics of the day. If you read the news articles, it's very easy to get confused because 90%, I would say 95% of the media is just a propaganda arm for the left. So you really got to pay attention to these things. And what I like to do is to put it in the most simple terms that there is. So, one of the main things that you have to understand is during this impeachment inquiry, one of the biggest arguments that you're going to hear is that the President of the United States used his position as President of the United States to have Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden and his son Hunter Biden in corruption, but on his part to benefit him in the 2020 election, to dig up dirt on Joe Biden for the 2020 election. But it's very simple. There's only one thing that you have to understand, and all of us that are common everyday people understand this. We get this. This is why we elected Donald Trump as President of the United States, because he is not a politician. He is not corrupt. He has no one to answer to. So when we elected Donald Trump to be the President of the United States, we didn't expect him to be a politician. We didn't expect him to do things the way every other administration has done. That's why we elected him. So all you hear from the left, from the Democrats, are things like, I would have never spoken that way. I would have never chosen those words. I would have never done these things this way. He's not acting presidential. Guess what, people? That's why we elected him. Because he doesn't owe the politicians. He is not about the corruption that has existed for so long in Congress and in the White House, as far as you can go. So one of the things that's most important in this impeachment inquiry, to keep it all simple, is the fact that they keep going back to this point that Donald Trump used his position as President of the United States to investigate his potential rival in the 2020 election, which was Joe Biden, and the corruption that existed with his son, Hunter Biden, with all of the money that he received from working with Burisma, a gas and energy company in Ukraine, and the subsequent monthly salary that he got, $64,000, I believe, every month, just because, which he admitted himself, just because he was the son of the Vice President of the United States. That's why he got that position on the board. So you'll hear Democrats and those on the left during these impeachment inquiries saying the same thing over and over again, that Trump is using his position to investigate his political rival, which is wrong. You shouldn't do that. Well, what we, the common everyday people, understand is that, yes, Trump is investigating Biden, Joe Biden, and his son, Hunter Biden. And if Joe Schmo was in politics and was corrupt and was a part of the corruption in Washington, D.C., they would be investigated too. Because this is why we elected Donald J. Trump. was to get rid of this corruption that exists and bring it back to the people. The power to the people instead of these elites and these bureaucrats and these politicians that just fill their pockets for pay to play. This is what we don't want anymore. We're taking our country back, and that's why we elected Donald J. Trump. But so you'll hear time and time and time again, it is Trump using his position as President of the United States to investigate a political rival, and that's wrong. Well, I say this, it's not wrong. It's his duty. It's why we elected him, to root out, to drain the swamp of all the corruption that exists. If it happens to be Joe Biden or anyone affiliated with Joe Biden, they should be investigated. And they will be found out. It will all come out. So, real quickly, just remembered something. Tell my daughter, my granddaughter, Jocelyn. My daughter, Brooklyn, hey, my granddaughter, Jocelyn, wanted to say hi because I know she's watching. Hi, Jocelyn. But I have a few questions. These are some open-ended questions that will really make you think. And you need to think about each and every question, and you'll understand how all this works. First question. Questions. Questions. First question. What happens when 90% of the media is controlled or owned by 6 organizations? What happens when those same corporations are operated and controlled by a political ideology? What happens when the news is no longer free from bias? What happens when the news is no longer reliable and independent? What happens when the news is no longer trustworthy? What happens when the news simply becomes an extension or arm of a political party? Fact becomes fiction. Fiction becomes fact. When does news become propaganda? Is it identity creation? How does the average person who is under constant financial stress by design find time to research and discern fact from fiction? Majority of people more prone to believe someone in power sitting behind a big brand news name. Do people, through their human psyche, tend to follow the majority or the mainstream viewpoint in fear of being isolated or shunned? Mainstream is used for a reason: to dominate trend in opinion. If majority of people believe X, then X must be validated or it must be true. Why do mainstream media heads within different organizations always use the same keywords or catchphrases? Bombshell, smoking gun. Is it coordinated? And who is it coordinated by? Outside entities providing information or instructions? Do they count on the fact that people in their human psyche are more prone to believe something if heard over and over again by different trusted sources? Do echo chamber tactics provide validation or credibility to the topic being discussed? Is it a threat to intellectual freedom? Would control over these instructions or organizations allow for the mass control of a population's viewpoint concerning a desired topic? Think about this. I'm going to repeat it. Would control over these instructions or organizations allow for the mass control of a population's viewpoint concerning a desired topic? It's logical thinking. Why are the elections of 2016, after the elections of 2016, did Democrats and media corporations jumpstart a coordinated and planned divisive blitz intended to create falsehoods regarding illegitimacy of an election, character assassination of the President of the United States through sexism, racism, and every other ism? Think before and after the 2016 election. Why were violent, masked terror organizations such as Antifa immediately created and funded? There's a reason. Why were these organizations tasked with immediate intimidation or shutdown of any pro-Trump rally or event? Why were marches immediately organized which divided people into sex, gender, race, or any other ism? When you control the levers of news dissemination, you control the narrative. And that's what they're trying to do. If you control the narrative, you have power. When you are blind, what do you see? They want you divided. They want you divided by religion. They want you divided by sex. They want you divided by political affiliation. They want you divided by class. When you are divided and angry and controlled, you target those different from you, not those responsible, not the controllers. When non-dogmatic information becomes free and transparent, it becomes a threat to those who attempt to control the narrative or to stabilize the narrative, meaning that you are livestock that is kept. You are sheep. When you are awake, you stand on the outside of the stable. Groupthink, the collective. And you have free thought. Free thought is a philosophical viewpoint which holds that positions regarding truth should be formed on the basis of logic, reason, and empiricism, rather than authority, tradition, revelation, or dogma. So even though that all sounds very complicated, rewind this, think about those questions, and see if they're not all true. Be free thinkers. If you want to know what's really going on, don't click on a few Yahoo articles. Don't even click on a few Fox articles. Read as many as you possibly can. See both sides. See all sides. And come to a decision for yourself. That things are changing. Times are changing. But this is going to be biblical. There's no escaping what's going to come out. Which side are you going to be on? Thanks. Talk to you soon.